Have you ever poured your heart and soul into a garden only to, well, end up with a couple of sad-looking plants? Yeah, me too. But today, we are digging into a method that honestly feels like a cheat code for getting that lush, amazing garden you've been dreaming of. We're talking about companion planting, an ancient trick that basically lets your plants help each other out.
You know, this quote from author Bruce McCord just hits so close to home for so many people. That feeling of putting in all that time and effort just to watch everything wither. It's a super common story, and honestly, it's what stops a lot of would-be gardeners right in their tracks.
I'm guessing that sounds pretty familiar, right? That roller coaster of getting all excited and then feeling so disappointed. It's almost a rite of passage. But here's the thing. What if the secret wasn't about working harder, but actually working smarter? You are definitely not alone in this, and there is a much, much better way.
So let's talk about this gardener's dilemma, because it's a way bigger deal than you might think. A ton of people have started gardening recently, and pretty much everyone is bumping up against the same classic problems. You know the ones: pests, bad soil, and plants that just refuse to cooperate.
Get this. That is the number of new gardeners who started since 2020 alone. That's huge. With about 1 in 3 households in the US now growing some of their own food, you've got this massive community of people all trying to crack the code to a great harvest. Many for the very first time.
Okay, so what if I told you there's a really elegant, time-tested solution that lets you dodge most of those common frustrations? And no, it's not some fancy new gadget or a super expensive fertilizer. It's a method that's been working for literally thousands of years. Let's just call it nature's own cheat code.
So what is this cheat code? It's called companion planting. And the idea is simple. Instead of just planting rows of the same thing, you start thinking of your garden as a little community. It's all about pairing up plants that are natural allies. Plants that help each other fight off pests, improve the soil, and just generally grow stronger together.
And this is not some new age trend, not at all. We've found evidence of this going back 10,000 years. The ancient Greeks and Romans wrote all about it. And then it had this huge comeback in the 1970s with the organic gardening movement. An idea doesn't stick around that long unless it really, really works.
And this right here is the absolute classic example, the Native American Three Sisters method. It is just brilliant. First, you've got the corn, which acts as a natural pole for the beans to climb up. Then the beans do something amazing. They pull nitrogen right out of the air and put it back into the soil, which is like a superfood for the corn. And then underneath it all, the big, broad leaves of the squash act like a living mulch, blocking out weeds and keeping the soil cool and moist. It's a perfect little self-sustaining woodgrow system.
When you start using these ideas, you're not just planting vegetables anymore. You are unlocking your garden's hidden superpowers. Seriously, think of it like you're activating these natural abilities that make your job way easier and the results so much better.
So what do these superpowers actually look like? Well, you get plants that act like tiny bodyguards, chasing off pests with their strong smells. You get other plants that are like magnets for good guys, like bees and other pollinators. You can even use certain plants to smother weeds so you don't have to. It all works together to make your soil healthier and, the best part, give you a bigger, tastier harvest.
This really puts it all into perspective. On one side, you have chemical pesticides, which can be expensive and harmful, but on the other side, you have companion planting. By just planting some marigolds or basil next to your tomatoes, you create this natural force field against pests. It's just safer, it's sustainable, and it builds a garden that's actually alive.
And speaking of a living garden, how powerful are those beneficial insects? Well, check this out. A single ladybug can devour up to 5,000 aphids in its lifetime. 5,000! By planting flowers that attract these little predators, you're basically hiring the best all-natural security team for your plants. For free!
Okay, so this all sounds great, but how do you actually do it? Let's get practical. I want you to start thinking of yourself as a garden matchmaker. Your whole job is just to pair up plants that bring out the best in each other. It's not complicated at all. It's just a fun little game of figuring out who gets along.
And that brings us to the golden rule, the one thing you have to remember. Just like with people, some plants are best friends, and some, well, they're total enemies. The entire secret to companion planting is just knowing who plays well with others.
So this chart is a great little cheat sheet. We've already talked about how tomatoes and basil are best buds, but look at the enemies list for tomatoes. It includes corn. Why is that? Well, they're both really heavy feeders, meaning they suck up the same nutrients. Plant them together, and they'll just compete and stunt each other's growth. It's these simple friend and enemy combos that can totally change your garden.
And here we go, back to our author, Bruce McCord, with some real-world proof. He actually discovered this tomato-basil power couple completely by accident. One year, his tomatoes were getting destroyed by pests. The next year, he happened to plant basil nearby, and bam, his tomatoes were flourishing. That's companion planting in a nutshell. When you really boil it all down, this whole idea comes back to one incredibly powerful concept: community. It's true for the plants living together in the soil, and, as it turns out, it's just as true for us, the people tending the garden.
You see, a garden isn't just a random collection of plants, it's an ecosystem where everything has to work together. And in that same way, gardeners do best when we share what we know and help each other out. The lessons of companion planting really do go way beyond the garden bed.
So as you start thinking about your next planting season, don't just think about what vegetables you want to eat. Think about the community you want to build in your soil. Because the healthiest, most productive gardens are always the ones that are filled with good friends. So what new friendships are you going to plant this year?